And welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimberley here in Abuja. Tonight, our attention will be first on national security and a nagging issue in our polity, issues of constitutional amendment. But this time around, it is something that are being agitated for several years, but it's never seen the light of day. Will it happen this time around? And it's about state creation. There are those who oppose and those who debate for it. But, you know, President Bola Tinubu had a sweeping reshuffle of Nigeria's security chiefs rank. That once again stirred a lot of conversation about the nation's approach to tackling its complex security challenges. The president named new heads of the armed forces in what the presidency described as a strategic move to inject fresh energy and ideas into the country's defense architecture, from the battle against insurgency in the northeast region to growing banditry in parts of northwest and creeping into the north central region of the country, kidnappings and communal clashes across several regions. The new commanders will now face immediate tests that would define the administration's credibility on national security. Whereas Nigerians welcome the appointment with cautious optimism, analysts are now warning that leadership change alone may not be enough. The country's security crisis has evolved, demanding deeper intelligence, coordinations, accountability within the forces, and stronger synergy between federal and local authorities. Tonight, let's first quickly examine what this shakeup truly means for Nigeria's security future. I'm being joined by a conflict security development expert and a newly minted doctor, PhD in all of these, a lawyer of double hat, Dr. Bulama Bukati, who joins us virtually from London. Congratulations on your new honor, and wish you the very best in your academic and scholarly endeavors. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much, Sean. Thank you for your warm congratulations and very kind introduction.
So let's begin the conversation around the decision of the president. And I asked the question on Friday. Did you see that coming?
No, no one saw that coming, especially because in past restructuring or sacking of the service chiefs, there were always rumors coming for months, sometimes for weeks before it happens. But in this case, we received the story all of a sudden. And so if you took it in the perspective of it not being rumored in any way or manner, no leaks at all, then you will say it wasn't surprising. But if you took the 2 weeks before the sacking, things like the rumors around the coup, the standstill in the leadership, in the morale, in the military and stuff like that, then you may say we have seen it coming. I think the reason why most people didn't see it coming, including myself, is because the presidency vehemently denied the reports widely circulated that there was an attempted coup. But now with this sacking, it is very, very difficult to say they are completely, the two incidences have no relationship whatsoever.
But quickly, let's get this out of the way. My thinking is, on a normal day, rumors apart about the coup, is it a good time for the president to have changed the service chiefs or reshuffle the service chiefs?
To be honest, the determination as to whether it's a good time or not is for the president to make. There is hardly any good time shown if you are in a war for change in leadership, unless and until it becomes necessary. But then when you look at what has happened in Nigeria's security landscape over the past year or two, then you may say that change of leadership is long overdue. Because number one, Boko Haram, unfortunately, is resurging in the northeastern part of Nigeria. Tinubu's government and President Buhari, before he left office in the last few years of his presidency, did very well in weakening Boko Haram and dismantling it, dislodging it, and pushing it to the fringes of the Lake Chad region. But unfortunately, over the past year or so, we have seen a resurgent Boko Haram launching attacks, audacious attacks on military formations in Borno and Yobe State, and in many cases succeeding by dispersing the soldiers on ground, killing some of them, dispersing some, and looting the military formations that they were attacking. And over the past 3 weeks or so, we saw 2 extremely audacious attacks in Gamdu, Yobe State, Borno State, I mean to say, and another reported attack last week on 4 different military formations at the same time. So you will say there was a resurgence there. The situation in the northwest is still at a standstill. Bandits continue to wreak havoc, especially in rural Katsina, Zamfara, Sokoto, Kebbi, and now you have Lakurawa added. The Lakurawa also continue to expand and continue to take lives and livelihoods. We know that Kwara State is becoming a very hot cake. Unfortunately, some even describe it as under siege. And Nasarawa State, northern Niger State, is also facing huge security problems. And then you have the situation in the southeast. So you would say that our security situation over the past 1 year has deteriorated. And I think if the presidency is looking at that, then you would say this is the right time for a change. And Shewan, when you look at the president's statement, the statement from the presidency, they said they sacked or replaced the service chiefs in order to improve Nigeria's security architecture. In which case, then the presidency is saying that they are not satisfied with the job the replaced service chiefs have done.
Good. So on that note, it's a good time for us to have a fresh leadership. It's over 2 years since the president came into office. Yes, fresh leadership, but the challenges remain. It's challenges of old, new faces that are coming. Well, not as new. We have the #1 or the most senior military officer, who is the CDS now, is a former chief of army staff, get into office. You look at them, he's of the 39th course, and you see the rest of 40, 41 courses who are now taking charge. But the major issue for me is you look at the background of some of these guys and whether or not they have the competence. Some of them are deep from the theaters before they now got into their present roles before this appointment happened. Do they come, and I'm very sure that you've tried your best to look at their profiles. Do they fit it into the roles, the challenges that we are facing and these new faces? Are they able, do they look like the kind of people that can help tackle these problems?
You see, Sean, all of the new service chiefs are eminently qualified when you look at their background in the military and their paper qualification. But Sean, we have been here very many times. We have seen service chiefs change many a times. And every time we will see that it was a former head of Operation Hadinkai or Operation Zaman Lafia or Operation Hadirin Daji, or someone who has experience in northeastern Nigeria, or someone who had led the Nigerian troops in the northwest or in the southeast. The problem is, Sherwin, wherever you have leadership renewal without reform, then it just becomes rotation. And rotation alone is not going to solve our national security problem. And so it is not about their qualification on paper. It is about their initiative. Do they have enough initiative to reform the Nigerian security architecture? When President Tinubu came in, he made a very important statement, which gave me hope at the time. He said Nigeria's war philosophy needs to change from conventional warfare, which we have been fighting for the past 10, 15 years, to a guerrilla warfare philosophy, because the enemy we are fighting are guerrilla fighters, and you cannot fight a guerrilla group, you cannot fight a group that will hit and run using conventional military philosophy or conventional military equipments. Unfortunately, over the past 3 years, we have not seen any dramatic change in Nigeria's fighting philosophy. We have not seen any dramatic change in Nigeria's equipments when it comes to fighting guerrilla warfare. And so it is not the rotation that is important. It is not the renewal in the leadership that is important. It is whether they have the guts and gumption to reform the Nigerian military security architecture, reform the Nigerian army, and reform our war philosophy. Until and unless we do that, we may continue to rotate leadership, but nothing good will come out of that. And so what I will urge the new service chiefs to do is to quickly look at President Tinubu's statement and take it to heart and to reform our entire system so that we may start fighting as if we are fighting a guerrilla warfare rather than a conventional or traditional warfare system.
If you look at all of the faces, from the Chief of Defense Staff to Chief of Defense Intelligence, it's only the Chief of Military Intelligence that wasn't changed, but we have a change from the Chief of Army Staff to the Chief of Naval Staff to the Chief of Air Staff, and you can see them, their ages, where they come from, their state of origin, and their last appointments or their last roles in the military. Gives you an understanding of where we're coming from and where we are headed as a people. But the question, perhaps, to simply wrap this up is the fact that we wouldn't be afraid if you hear that death is coming your way. And it's so unfortunate that anyone would be thinking of a coup in this very age of ours as a nation. We've seen far too many. I grew up knowing military coups all my young age. It was just only recently that we had a civilian rule come into play. So I've known a lot about what is military rule in Nigeria. It's not the usual, but it's becoming a trend and a fashion on the continent of Africa. Every president will be afraid. Either a rumor or it's for real. But when this thing happened in 2 years, we've heard and seen about a few times that this is happening. What do you think? How do you think we should handle this? The presidency has said little about it, but the military has rebuffed this.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very important point, but let me just make one remark, Sheun, on the profile of the people you just projected. Daily Nigerian has done a fantastic analysis of the new service chiefs. And Sheun, they reveal that 160 officers will now have to retire. Because the Chief of Army Staff, the new Chief of Army Staff is from the 41 regular course initiated, I think, in 1994. That means almost 120 officers in the Nigerian army will have to retire now. I think many of them are generals who will have to retire. And if you took all of the service chiefs, about 140 senior officers will retire because of these appointments. Now, there are two ways of looking at this. One part will be, should you be losing 160 experienced officers at a time when you are fighting on all fronts, on about 4 fronts in Nigeria? And what will that experience vacuum bring with it when it comes to our ability to fight the criminals and terrorists wreaking havoc in our country? Another way of looking at this is that this will give an opportunity to raise morale in the Nigerian army and the other services, because this will allow officers who have been stagnated for a long time to now get promoted into the new positions that are being left by the 160 officers that will be retiring. And I think that will then give officers more encouragement to show bravery and professionalism and to work very hard. And I think if that happened, then these promotions, these retirements may end up becoming good for our country. But if we look at it from the perspective of us losing 160 experienced officers at a time when we are at war, then that may not be something good. But when it comes to the question of military coups, I think it is something that we must always take seriously. Because like you said, we have had a long history in Nigeria of military coups. Unfortunately, we have seen military coups elsewhere in Africa, including 3 of our neighbors, 3 of our West African neighbors, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger recently. And whenever, therefore, you hear rumors like this, we have to take them seriously and we have to tackle them, Sheun. Because military rule is not the way to go in Nigeria. The military in Niger, in Mali, when they took over, they said we took over because the civilian democratically elected governments have failed to restore security and to ensure peace and security. Unfortunately, you as the military have the primary responsibility of tackling insecurity. You failed, and then now you are taking over a democratically elected government, and you are saying we took over because they could not restore security. Unfortunately, wherever military takes over, then their attention will be divided. It will be divided between ruling the country or administering the country and ensuring security. And if a military has failed in ensuring security when they are not administering the country, then it will be very difficult for them to succeed when they become politicians or administrators. Therefore, I think it is good that the Nigerian army has denied this rumor. It is good that they would continue to safeguard our country and our borders, and it is good for them to continue to allow democratically elected governments to continue to rule our country. But Sheun, politicians and democratically elected governments have to do better, because if you see, in a lot of sections of Nigeria, people are clamoring even for the military to take over because they are disillusioned with the failure of the politicians and democracy. And I think that's not a good place to be, and therefore our leaders need to show more example by delivering the dividends of democracy to Nigerians, so that Nigerians, many sections of Nigeria, will stop clamoring for the military. Sheun, you said this is your last question, so I will just use this liberty to explain what I mean by reform, because in the beginning I said rotation or renewal without reform is just rotation, which will make no sense. And on the ground now, the new service chiefs will have to do about 5 major things. Number one, and most importantly, is for them to restore morale and professionalism and integrity in the Nigerian military, because these things are fast fading away. You see our military on the ground, especially those on the road, taking 50 naira, 100 naira, 200 naira as bribes. We didn't know that. Our military on the ground, many of them are accused of unprofessionalism. They have to tackle that, and they have to lead by example by going to the war front and fighting together with our military, so that our soldiers, our boots on the ground who are sacrificing their lives every day will see example from their leaders. They also need to work hard to strengthen cooperation between the Nigerian services with other Nigerian law enforcement and security agencies, like the NDLEA, for example, like the Customs and Excise, like the other security and law enforcement agencies, because we cannot succeed unless and until the 17 or so security and law enforcement agencies in Nigeria all work together. And I think the way the way they can work together is for these new service chiefs to strengthen the cooperation and coordination between these agencies and organizations. And I think most importantly, they need to start delivering immediately, because Nigerians are tired of lip service. They are tired of new service chiefs saying we are going to do this, we are going to do that, without anything on the ground until the end of their tenure. And therefore, I urge them to hit the ground running. I urge them to show example, to lead by example. Let them go to the war front and fight with our boots on the ground, so that their morale will be high. I want them to fight corruption and misappropriation of funds with credible reports showing this is going on in the Nigerian security architecture. And if they did that, if they hit the ground running, they show example, they fight corruption, they restore professionalism in the Nigerian army, then we will succeed. But if they don't do that, unfortunately, we are not going anywhere as a country.
Dr. Bulama Bukati, PhD, I must re-emphasize that anyone who is a scholar will know just how difficult it is to come by one. Well, congratulations once again, Bulama Bukati. He's a security and conflict development expert, a lawyer here in Nigeria and in the UK. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe.